Hello, good lifers. Welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to build some raised beds. So if you've never joined us before, my name is Nikki. We run Back to the Good Life, me and my husband, G, who is not here with me today. He is currently at work. We're really passionate about being sustainable, growing our own food and trying to live as self-sufficiently as possible. We have a tiny budget and we also have a tiny house and a tiny garden. We're not ever going to be fully self-sufficient, I don't think, but we're going to work really hard on it. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope that you will continue to join us and to enjoy our journey towards being self-sufficient and getting back to the good life. Our main raised beds are going to be 10 foot by 4 foot. I wanted them to be nice and long, but I couldn't have them too massively long, so I've got to transport the wood in my car. I can only put 5 foot in my car, so that kind of made, I was like, right, 10 foot would be the right amount then, and it's a nice even number. But it's going to be 4 foot across, so that it makes it easier when you're leaning across the raised bed to actually plant things and do weeding and bits and pieces. If it's any wider than 4 foot, it gets a little bit tricky. I've got a poor back as it is, so I don't want to go ruining it anymore. So before we dive in, we've chosen to use raised bed gardening because I really like to do square foot gardening, and for me it's easier if I just have an organised out area to do that in. It's also a nice easy way to kind of keep tabs on things. As one of my friends who's a gardener said, using raised beds is also really good for mental well-being, because when you've only got a little bit of time, you can go in, do a little bit to one bed, come back and know exactly what you've done and be able to see it, rather than just looking at a huge swathe of stuff that never looks like you've done a lot of work to it. So I'm really passionate about growing our own food. I think it's really important to try, especially in the times we're living in at the moment. You know, we've got some food shortages going on and other bits and pieces like that are not very fun. So we're going to be trying to grow our own food and try and grow our own vegetables as much as possible. We've got lots and lots of plans for this allotment. It's in a bit of a dire state at the moment. You can check out our allotment tour.
This is my new allotment. And yes, I know that it needs a lot of work, but at least I have a shed.
I'll leave it up there for you, but it will hopefully start to come good. It's kind of the beginning of March at the moment, so this is just about the right time to start doing this. I would have preferred to get them in a little bit earlier, but life has taken the toll that it has taken, so we haven't got them in yet. But we're going to put them in, so we're going to plan to put 10 raised beds in. I've already got 2 in here. You can just about see them in the background there. And this one here, the closest one here is here. That one's not actually filled up yet. This one is already filled up and it's full of garlics and onions. I did those just before Christmas. We're going to put another 4 lengthways along here, and then you can't see it, but on this side of the allotment there's going to be another 4. So 10 raised beds in all for growing vegetables. Then we're going to have a 7 by 7 raised bed to make as a physic garden. So that's for medicinal herbs and plants. There will be a video coming out about that. I will pop it somewhere when we get around to doing it. And then right up at the end of the allotment, we're planning to have a culinary herbs raised bed. I think that one's going to be about 12 foot by 3 foot is what's in the plan. I'm not sure if we're going to get them all done in the spring. We'll see. I hope so. Building our own raised beds out of pallet wood as well is really cool, because it means that we can repurpose the wood. It means I'm not buying anything new. I've already got loads of screws I can chuck them together with. All I needed to do was saw them up into different shapes and sizes and then come down here at the allotment and put them together. So all it's really cost me is a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, maybe a little bit of electricity for the saw because I'm not using a handsaw. But apart from that, it's kind of quite a sustainable way to do it. You do have to be slightly careful about the wood that you use, so you probably shouldn't use pressure-treated wood because it's not very good for the vegetables. But other than that, bog standard pallet wood generally tends to do the job. I'm at my allotment today and I'm seeing lots of other allotment owners that have done very similar things to me, so thank you to all of those for your great inspiration. The allotment behind me, that's actually behind the camera at the moment, they have used decking boards as theirs, so theirs are probably going to last quite a bit longer than mine because decking boards are pretty good wood. I don't have any spare decking board laying around, so I'm using pallet wood. So the materials you're going to need are really, really simple. You're going to need some wood, some screws, a saw, And that's pretty much it, really. I used a tape measure just to make sure that they're all in the right places. You might be limited on space of where you can put them. We've decided to put ours right at the front of our allotment because it's going to be the place that gets the most sun. We can control the shade so that we can make sure that everything's growing as optimally as possible. If I was to put the beds a lot further down the allotment, I've got some more buildings down there. I'm going to have a chicken house down there. I've got a polytunnel down there. So the shade issue is going to be a bit more of a problem. We've also got a big pond. Well, not big, it's about 7 foot by 7 foot pond, which we will be doing a video about bringing it back to life, because at the moment it's less pond, more puddle of water. So we didn't want to kind of involve in that. And putting them down here meant that we can kind of keep them nice and organised, and it all looks nice and organised. Okay, so let's take you through how we've built the raised beds. I'm going to show you how I cut up the wood and then transporting them down to the allotment, and then how I built them together today. So, yeah. So I've got my old pallet wood here. What I need to find is how long this piece of wood is. It's in really good condition, this one, so that's alright. I'm not too worried about these nails. I can get rid of them at any point, really. Probably should do it now, but I don't know where my claw hammer is, so that's not that point. So I need, for each bed, 4 5-foot pieces of wood and 2 4 foot 1.5 inches roughly pieces of wood. The 4 foot ones are going to go at the end, and then the 5 foot ones in the middle. I also need a kind of a bracing bit for the middle, but that can be used out of it to scrap, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's measure this piece of wood, see how long it is. I think it's going to be about 7 feet. This is really annoying, to be honest. It's 7 foot 10.25. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that into a 5 foot piece. My tape measure doesn't stick anymore, which is a bit of a pain. So what I'm going to do really quickly is just draw a line on it. Doesn't need to be exact. And then write on it here 5 foot. So I know that this piece I'm going to cut down to 5 feet. I'm going to find another piece that is probably a bit smaller. As you can see, this one's not in. You can see this one's not in quite as good condition. A bit raggedy. This one's going to be one of my 4 foot 1.5 pieces. So same thing again. Measure it out. 4 foot. 4 foot 1.5 roughly. That 1.5 inches on the end gives me my overlap space. So if we imagine this is my long piece of wood, and then this is my end piece of wood, they're going to overlap like that, or I'm going to drill them together. Obviously this one's a bit longer, I figured that. But so get about 1.5 inches just gives me that little bit of extra space. Again, it doesn't need to be exact, but it does need to be at least roughly right. So that's my 4 foot piece. Let me put that on there. As I say, it is 4 foot, sort of 1.5-ish, but I just write 4 foot on it so I know which bits is which. So now I can see I've actually got my 4 5 foot pieces here, and then my 2 4 foot pieces here. So what I'm going to do now is cut them out and then hopefully get ready to make my raised bed. So I've got my pieces of wood. I've got 4 of these 5 foot pieces here, and I've got 2 of the 4 foot pieces just there. So that is enough for me to make a full 10 foot by 4 foot raised bed. I can't fit 10 foot length in my car, so this is why we need to cut them down to 2 5 foots. So to do that, to put them together at the allotment, I also need to make some brace pieces. Again, these don't need to be hugely accurate, they're just there to keep the 2 5 foot pieces together. So what I'm going to do, I've got lots of
You can see here scraps on the floor. And I'm just going to grab one of those pieces of scrap and chop them in half and then do it that way. Really makes life a little bit easier for me. And then we can put them together and hopefully make a really nice raised bed at the allotment. I've got another one of these already cut out at the allotment with the brace pieces ready to go. I've probably got at least, I think, at least another one, probably two, to be honest, raised beds here. So I'm going to need some more pallet wood and to ask my neighbour if he can give me a hand going to find some. But yeah, we are getting going. I am slightly worried that it's about to rain, so I'm going to get these chopped up as soon as possible and then see what happens. I might not get to take them down to the allotment today just because the weather makes it a little bit grey and miserable. I think probably as soon as I get down there it's going to start raining, and of course these tools are electric, so I don't want to leave them outside either in the rain. But we shall see what happens. Very exciting. Okay, so I've got the bits cut up. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 5-foot pieces. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 4-foot pieces, which is quite good because that works out nicely. And I've got 3 braces, so I need to just make one more. I did have this piece of wood tagged as a brace, and then I realised that, oh, it's completely knackered, so that's not a piece we're going to be using for a brace. Again, the braces, as you can see, don't have to be perfect. They're not even the same size or length, but they're just going to go in between the pieces of wood, like that. You can imagine. Should have done this with a 4-foot piece, really, it's a little easier. But they're going to go between the 5-foot pieces like that, so that we can just kind of keep them together when they're in the bed down at the allotment. So I've got enough there to make 3 raised beds, so I need another 3 of these. Let's do that now. I've got plenty of scrap wood down here. I've got some really nice bits. I like this bit, for example. I probably wouldn't want to use this as a brace piece because it's actually quite a nice piece of wood. I can use it for something else. But things that are a bit more broken up, like I can see this one here has got a big crack in it just there, so really the wood's only usable to about here, so I could easily make another 2, maybe even all 3 braces out of this piece. So I'm just going to find some scraps that aren't nearly as good, and then I'll make the braces out of those, another 3 braces, and we should be done. I've got another 3 pieces of 9-foot pallet. That was quite useful because it meant I could get 2 of the 4-foots out of them. And then I've got another 2 7-foots and 1 a little bit broken up there. Actually, it's very broken up. Probably good to scrap that one. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with those yet. I can make another raised bed out of it. We'll see, really. I'll have a think about that, but I'm happy with what I've got so far. I can take these down to the allotment and get them filled. I have all of my wood ready to go. There are 3 raised beds here sitting behind me. I know it doesn't quite look like it at the moment, but they will be very, very soon. So down at the allotment and now ready to get started putting them together. The process should be nice and easy. You know, dead easy to kind of put them together and screw them together and chuck them on the ground. Then I'm going to fill them up mostly with mulch because this is what we've got at the moment and it's nice and free and we like free things. And I've got some compost to go over the top. I haven't got quite enough compost to fill up all 4 raised beds because I've got 3 raised beds here and 1's down at the allotment already. But I will fill up as many as I've got today. I've also got 1 bed that's already built down there, so technically I've got 5 raised beds to sort out today. So it's a long process today, but we should be good. So I'm here at our allotment. We've already got a couple of raised beds in ready, as you can probably see. So the other raised beds are going to go kind of like here, here and here. So we've got another 4 to go in. So I've actually got 3 raised beds that I brought down in the wheelbarrow that you just saw, and I've got 1 in the shed ready to go. So I'm hoping today to at least get the 4 built here, so basically we know where they are. I'm going to be leaving a 2-foot gap between each raised bed, mainly because I really like to do things in square foot gardening, so everything's measured in feet, it's easier. But also it means that I can get the wheelbarrow in and out and fill it up with soil, mulch and stuff. So
off we go. So as a relatively new gardener and new allotment holder, we are trying to do most things here on a budget, so this is why we got free pallet wood. I know you can buy your own raised beds, and I know that they look really pretty, the raised beds that you can buy, but what we're going to do today is just build our own out of what we've got. We might replace them later on at some point, but we're going to do our best. We've actually written a blog about how to fill a raised bed, so you can check that out. I've left a link in the description for you there. And it's got a little soil calculator as well, so you can figure out how much compost you're going to need to buy if you buy compost, so that you can fill up your raised bed and hopefully make it work for you. So I'm going to be screwing these raised beds together. I'm going to be using these kind of screws as long as I've got them left. You can see them here. They're about 1.5 inches long, roughly. They're a little bit too long, but it doesn't really matter for this, to be honest. It doesn't need to be neat or tidy. And for people who like new money, that's about 40 millimeters. Before I do get started, I do need to whack in the nails because I left the nails in. I probably should have done that at home. I don't have a pole hammer with me. Well, to be honest, I actually know where it is at home for either. So I'm going to be using my normal hammer just to whack the nails down so they don't hurt me as I'm trying to put them together. So off we go. So I've got my 4 raised beds out in roughly in the position that they're going to be. I have noticed over there's quite a lot of uneven ground and there's some debris that's been left out from the previous owner. So I'm just going to grab a rake and just kind of rake it over a little bit. I'm not too worried about it being overly uneven, to be honest. I'm not really worried about it being pristine and perfect looking, but I would like to just make sure that the beds are roughly even as they go, roughly level. And it would be just a little bit easier to do that if I've managed to just rake the stuff over first. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so raking's proven to be a little bit of a bigger job than I thought. It's not too much of a problem. What I think I might do is actually get the beds put together, or at least the first one put together, so I can visually see how big it's going to be. That way that will let me organise how to rake and try and even out the ground a little bit around it. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so we have a raised bed in. As you can see, it's a little bit wonky. It's not too much of a problem. I would like to try and just get that corner raised up a little bit. So I'm going to put a little bit of earth under that
And then round the edge here, I'm going to rake it a little bit more so it's a little bit flatter, just to try and get it a little bit more even. As I said, I'm not too worried at the moment, to be honest. It will even itself out over time, but at least if I get it a little bit more even at this stage, it probably has a little bit less work to do. So I'm going to do that right now. So as you can see, that raised bed is pretty much done. It's still a little bit high in places, but I'm not really worried about that, in all honesty, because it will sort itself out eventually. The only thing I've got to do now is fill it up. So we've got lots and lots of mulch on this allotment. It's kind of like free, it gets dropped off. It's like wood chips and bits and pieces like that. That's going to be the main filler for this bed. And then the top section is going to be filled up with really good quality compost. So that will hopefully help stuff grow in it. If you want to learn more about filling up raised beds, you can have a look at the blog we wrote. I'll leave it in the description below. It's on our website, backtothegoodlife.com. And the blog is all about how to fill a raised bed, what the best things to fill a raised bed with, and it's really helpful because we put a soil calculator on there so that you can figure out how many bags of compost you're going to actually need to buy. And don't worry, for you American people that are watching here, we've done it in cubic feet as well as for us Brits in litres of compost as well. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you. So I will leave you with that there, and thank you very much for joining us. We're still quite new to this, so we're really helpful. It'd be really helpful if we had any feedback, hopefully good feedback. But carry on watching our videos. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will hope to see you next time. Bye bye.